Hitesh, there's this concept of Metcalfe's law in networks where the value of the network is the square of the number of nodes in it. But the opposite actually holds true when you think about people working together. So I'm sure you've had this on your team where you're like, I can get so much done with like a team of 5 assassins. But then when you go up to 50 people, suddenly like it doesn't scale linearly with how much production there is. Are there like, how does it work with robots and agents working together? Can you just constantly add more to the mix and you get exponentially more done, or does it slow down like as if you add more people to the party?
Yeah, it is slightly different. First of all, in both the instances, what you have to be mindful of is not create bureaucratic processes.
Okay.
Corporations have this tendency of creating layers within an org chart, which creates a lot of bureaucracy as well. And that's why flatter organizations are operating much more faster than pyramid organizations in general. Decision making happens faster, issue identification happens much faster. So, but that concept generally, I use the word generally, also applies with when you add unnecessary, steps in a even IT generated process or a process which entails both robots and agents. But it's a very interesting question, and I'm dealing with this situation. I'll give you an example. You could have, let's go back because we used an example previously. We can use that same example where I said humans were reviewing contracts, and now you can have agents reviewing contract. Let's say there are two ways to design that process. You can have 10 different humans reviewing all the 100 contracts, but for 10 different things. One person is reviewing a contract to understand if there is what is the termination clause looking like. Another person is looking at what does the financial terms look like. Another one's looking at the warranty provision. If you design the process like that, all the 10 humans are expected to review all the 100 contracts to then go and identify the one thing that they're focused on. So you could say instead, I can divide up the 100 contracts among 10. So one person will review 10 contracts and they will identify all the 10 terms that I'm interested in versus all the 10 people reviewing all the 100 contracts. So it all depends on how you design it. Bringing that concept up to agentic, you can have one prompt and one agent try to identify only one clause. And or you can create a multi-agent with an agent on top of agent, which is operating together to identify all the contracts. Where corporations have to think about is there is a balance of what is the overall agent score at a process level. And second is how does that translate into the compute cost? Because there is an interesting concept because if I have 10 agents doing mining all the 100 contracts, the compute cost is going to be significant. So I think corporations will have to find out what's that right balance. That balance is important because you want to make sure the cost is low, but the quality is high. And what's that optimal solution is what you want to focus on.
Because traditionally we've thought of budgeting in terms of people and then the things we need to buy for those people. How does that equation change now?
Yeah. Again, the budgeting, that is where, unfortunately, people don't have unlimited resources. And you have to, for us, the discipline is very much, in fact, even when we are trying to hire more people, it's not that we can just make a requisition and we are allowed to go and hire extra heads. There is always this thing saying, how can you manage within the organization that you've got currently? Is there a way you can identify some efficiencies? And I'll give you an example. When UiPath went public within the finance and accounting organization, the number of heads that were responsible for our core accounting, that number of heads have remained exactly the same, maybe plus or minus one or two over last 7 years.
The same.
Yes, exactly the same.
Wow.
Even though the business has more than doubled from that point to where we are now.
How is that possible?
Because of automations. I'm very fortunate when I landed here, and I mentioned this thing saying, making sure you have the right culture, making sure you have the right team at the time of going public. It is very important, for us. I'm very fortunate that most of our team members have an automation first mindset. So anytime a new process is introduced, a new transaction activity is introduced, the first and foremost, the teams are thinking is there an automated way to implement this process? And the advantage we have, of course, is our technology, which provides us a lot of flexibility. And I'll give you an example. Even we just recently announced that we've implemented SAP. That SAP implementation was substantially different than what others do in the market, meaning we have actually come up with a new a new benchmark for what is known as a clean core in SAP implementation. Means the processes that otherwise required customization, we were able to actually go and what do you call implement automations instead of customizing within SAP. So that is only possible when you have a team that has an automation first mindset, and that actually helps us a lot. So that is why our overall headcount in the core finance and accounting has remained flat. As the business continued to grow and the complexities came up, we were able to take care of those needs with automations. And so we made sure that we balance within that 150 mark that we have, plus or minus, to make sure that we are not going and adding incremental heads.
Run the Numbers is a mostly LLC production. Yelling an intro by Fat Joe. Artwork by some AI thingamajig. Podcast and video editing is done by Cleancast at cleancast.io. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of me, a guy who feeds his dog too much ice cream and has a history of net operating losses, lol. If you like this podcast, please hit subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And also check out mostlymetrics.com. That's my newsletter where I explore business models and financial metrics. Thanks for riding with me. Share this with your friends. Peace.